Ready? Hey travelers, welcome back to my podcast, Life's a Voyage. I am joined again by Adam Montoya.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for joining me, Adam. I really appreciate your taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with me.
Absolutely.
So today we wanted to talk a little bit about careers versus entrepreneurship. Obviously, we have taken the path of entrepreneurship, which technically is our career, but I just wanted to come up with two terms that kind of, put people into one category or another. So as small business owners, we kind of took the path of being entrepreneurs versus the other topic we're going to be talking about is people that kind of work for other people or go into a career path where they have employers. And I did want to talk about this because I feel like it's a question we get asked a lot. Like, people are like, how'd you start your own business? Or why did you start your own business? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So we'll just jump in with talking about some of the key points that had come up when we thought about starting our own businesses. And we'll start with stability. And that is not something you have when you start your own business, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't think that many people anticipate going into something like that with stability.
Yeah.
But it's something that you kind of have to really work towards. It's more so like being comfortable with uncertainty, knowing that like tomorrow you could wake up and make $0 or you could make $1,000 or $10,000. It's like,
yeah,
that's kind of like the excitement of it all.
I would say it's like the biggest sacrifice is stability. And for me, like that was something that I was super looking forward to post-college. I was like, all I want is a job. I want to be stable. I want to have stable income because I grew up without that. And I was like, that's the only thing I want. Like, I don't care what I'm doing right away. Like, I just want stable income. And then a year later, I was like, JK, this isn't for me. The stability was great, but it didn't satisfy my career path or my journey so much. Having that stability wasn't as important as I thought it was once I was there.
Right. And it's so much more than just like financial stability. It's also like stability in your daily routine or schedule.
Having a schedule.
Yeah. It's like if somebody calls us for work, it's whenever they need it done, really, like we spend a lot of time here after hours getting stuff done because tomorrow we could wake up and not have that work. So it's like you kind of got to do what needs to get done.
Well, there's actually like once you start working for yourself, there are no hours, right? Like we don't have a set schedule or set hours that we work in a day or in a week or in a month. Like we kind of work all the time.
Yeah, I mean it's Sunday right now and we're like filming this because this is the only time we have to get this done. So
yeah, but it's for fun. Like this is fun. This is us not working.
Right. But we're in our office, which is
we are working
kind of our work environment, but it's also just a second home, a home away from home.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like when it comes to stability in the workplace, one of the things that I felt I really loved about the stability in the workplace was like having the schedule. And like I would wake up, I'd go to the gym in the morning, then I would go to work, I would have my lunch every day, I'd get out of work and then do whatever I had to do after work. But as like an entrepreneur or self-employed, I have no sense of schedule. Like that was not something that I carried over. Like every day is different for us and I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's something I totally carried over from like working from my normal job to being self-employed because I know I need that. So I know I come to the office at a specific time and I work until a specific time. Obviously, I usually just work all hours, but I like getting to the office at a specific time because it's kind of that stability that I was familiar with, I guess.
Yeah, and I didn't carry that over.
No, you took much more advantage of like, if you wanted to take a day off, you could take a day off,
Yeah, which is so funny because I wanted flexibility more than stability. Like, I feel like that's what I really got out of working in a job for a year is that I actually loved the fact that I was technically part-time or contracted and was able to take time off of work when I could versus having the schedule and like knowing I had the hours. Like I appreciated the flexibility in being able to not work rather than the stability of having work, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, that just goes to show that you can still have a normal job and still have that sort of flexibility or
Yeah.
while maintaining that stability. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds at that point. But I don't think there's many jobs out there, at least not in like the starting range of jobs, that would offer that.
Yeah, I was very lucky that I had a contracted position. So I wasn't full-time and I was technically not part-time. It was somewhere in the middle. But I was very lucky to have that flexibility that I love, but also the stability and income. But I knew even with that like combo, it wasn't what I really wanted. Like I got to a point where I was like, I just don't want to work. I don't want to do work for other people. Like I wanted to just do work for us. Like I just wasn't loving the projects I was working on and all that stuff. So even with the stability of work, I was like, I don't care for the work I am doing at all. And that was like one of my biggest turn-offs of having a job.
Yeah. I mean, even here, like if we have work that we don't necessarily like think it's something we would love to do, we can make it something we love to do because it's our own process, you know?
Yeah. And as we grow, we can start to pass off the tasks that we don't love to do. We can pass those off to employees or contracted employees once we get bigger. We're still doing a lot of everything right now, but we're definitely in that stage where we're starting to work towards that, which is really exciting.
Yeah, we're definitely headed down that road.
So transitioning from stability in career versus entrepreneurship, I want to talk about the lifestyle and the difference in lifestyle. And we kind of touched on it with schedules, but I wanted to talk more about like how we time manage and how we find a balance between work, life, health, social life, you know, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel a lot of my friends who have 9-to-5s or whatever you want to call it, a career, they, you know, get out of work and they're like, oh, let's go hang out or something like that. Obviously pre-COVID, whatever. But for us, it's like a friend could call me at 7 p.m. on a weekday and I'm still working. And that's not what is common for most people.
Yeah, I think the whole position that we're in, like I've really grown to learn how valuable time is. And so I think that kind of pushes me to at least work harder for now. And
yeah, I feel like time is like the one thing you can't buy, right? Like, so having a lifestyle where your time is, you know, for us, our lifestyle is how can we use our time doing things that we love, right? But some people, they prefer a career where they go and they work for someone for 8 hours a day and then they live and do whatever they want. And we kind of work doing what we want.
Exactly, yeah. We're always looking for a way that we can make something that we love doing into a form of a portion of our business or, you know, a more productive form of what we do.
And I think that one of the biggest, the biggest pro to the lifestyle of being self-employed is that we get to do what we love all the time, technically, you know. But the biggest con is that we don't, it's much harder to balance like our health, and like we're really bad eaters because we don't have a schedule. So we eat at all hours or we forget to eat because there's no one telling us to go to lunch. We have to clock out to go to lunch.
Right. It's kind of like I have this task to do. I'm going to get it done regardless of, you know, kind of hunger in the back of my head. It's not something I'm usually thinking about.
Just don't get hungry anymore. Just forget to get hungry.
Right, which is an awful habit.
It's horrible, and we're working on the balance of just staying healthy by eating right.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in the last episode, how we kind of have worked eating into our schedule. Like it's something that we put on our calendar now, so we are more aware. Yeah,
we put eating on our calendar, and we have developed a eating schedule, so that is helping us. But working out has been really, really hard too because COVID, the gyms are closed. But when you work for yourself and your schedule is different every day, it's not like when I was working in a job, I just went to the gym every morning, like 5 days a week or 4 days a week or whatever. I would just go to the gym in the morning, and it was at my work, so I just went to the gym and then went to work. But now it's really hard to working out into your schedule, and it's like, when am I going to have time to do that? Because there's always work to do when you are self-employed.
Yeah, definitely just comes down to priorities and what you yourself can prioritize. But, there's always time to get work done. But
Yeah.
like you said, we're basically just trying to get as much done as possible in whatever time period.
Yeah. And that kind of lends itself to working really hard and hard work. And I always say that we took the really hard route in starting our own businesses and, endeavoring into this world of working for ourselves. It's the harder route than working for someone else. I know it's not super easy right now to find a job because, again, COVID, but it's much easier to just have someone telling you what to do and going in and clocking in and being given the work. That's such an easier, in my opinion, less stressful life than us constantly trying to find work. We have to work harder to make money, right?
Yeah, to some degree, but I would also say working for yourself is just as much of an opportunity as it is a choice,
Oh, for sure.
It's not something everybody gets to choose. So
right.
It's important to take that into consideration that, us working for ourselves is definitely something we had to work towards. And we did both work normal jobs for a long time.
Yes, we both worked for other people for a long time before we were able to be in the position where we felt comfortable to start our own business.
Something you have to work towards totally. And
Yeah.
it takes everybody a different amount of time to achieve, but it really depends on how much you can put yourself into it. And it's really all your own time. Because I used to have a hard time when I'd come home from work just trying to work on anything else.
Your day job.
Yeah, coming home from my day job, trying to work on anything else was the last thing on my mind. I basically would just go home and relax because I was so mentally and physically exhausted from dealing with people all day. But, slowly, bit by bit, if you work towards it in those times you do have a couple hours after getting off of work, then I think that's kind of how I was able to make it work for me. So slowly, very slowly became from 10% of my time. It slowly worked itself up to now it's 100% of my time basically.
Yeah, I agree and I disagree with you. I do agree that it's something that you should work towards and feel comfortable with before doing. But I think that no matter what you want to do, if it's start your own business or something else, if you work hard enough at it, you'll succeed. So I feel I know a lot of businesses where people weren't ready to become self-employed, but they knew that's what they wanted and they did it and they worked really hard. Really hard, going into debt. And we're lucky we didn't have to do that to start our own business because we took the time and,
slowly did it.
Slowly worked our way into being self-employed. But some people just take out a bunch of loans and they just go for it and they work really hard and then they're successful. So I agree and disagree with that. It's it depends on which route you want to go, but I feel if you work hard enough for it, you can achieve it for anything, really.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's kind of a leap of faith. It's just really how big of a leap it is for you.
Yeah.
We were able to make it more of a comfortable jump.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't know is possible because it seems like such a big task at first. But if you slowly, like I said, set aside just a little bit of time each day, you can slowly work towards it. Yeah, a little bit of money.
And I feel we also eased into it in phases. We worked full time. We both worked full time other places and then part time other places. And then I now don't work anywhere else. And you still work at Row, but that's more of a choice than a need.
Yeah, that's right. But I think it's important to look at not just that we had part-time jobs, but we also worked towards working with other people in our industry that had what we wanted and were able to kind of gradually hang on with them and see how they do things and sort of work towards what we wanted to do because they had kind of the outline of what we were looking for,
Yeah, I think that's super important. Anything you do is to just work with other people or ask questions or that's why I love talking to people about, whatever I could give you value out of, if it's starting your own business or travel or whatever it be. I love talking to people about it because that's how I got where I am, is just talking with people and learning from other people and really putting yourself out there to become a expert in your field.
Yeah, you definitely have to have like the curiosity about it, but also like last episode we talked about having passion. I think that's like the biggest element. Like if passion kind of drives learning. The more you
Yeah,
learn about something, the more interested you'll become, and the more able you'll be able to do something with it.
I agree. So let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of starting your own business or staying in a career. And we did already talk about like stability and your lifestyle, but I guess more like instead of saying what the pros and cons are, like how do you evaluate the pros and cons, right? Like that's something that a lot of people, maybe do like a little Venn diagram or something, but like looking at the pros and cons of both sides and seeing where that fits into your life. Like evaluate your life and your life trajectory, like where you would love to see yourself, regardless of which path you took, and fit that in and like evaluate that, right? So, like obviously money doesn't mean everything, but that's a huge consideration. And one of the things that really pushed me to want to start my own business was that I knew that I would only limit my earning potentials by working for someone else. And here it's like my earning potential is based on how hard I work. So it's like if I want to work really hard and make a couple $1,000s, like I can do it. And if I don't do any work, I make $0. And I think that's something that you understand because when you were younger, you were getting these jobs and you were just like doing them for other people and they were just giving you the money for the jobs and then you would just spend the money. But now you're like working for those freelance jobs. And
Yeah, I had a few of moments that really like made it click for me. I was lucky enough to like from a very young age to have a job that wasn't, well, it started out as just an hourly wage, but also was commission on top of the hourly wage. And that really like drove me to understand, how much how much your time can be valued over.
or like you can earn more money the harder you work. Because
Yeah.
if you work harder to make more sales, you make more commission.
Right. It was like even more than that because I had to learn more about the product, and the more time I spent researching the product away from my job, the more money I would make at my job. So, and then from there, like starting doing freelance work, I remember the first time I ever quoted a freelance job and I gave them an hourly rate. I just threw like as high as I thought I could get, and they were like, yeah, that sounds fine. And I like couldn't believe it. I was like, is that actually what people make?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to figure out that price because you don't really fully comprehend all the things that go into it. And one of the major factors is the fact that, yeah, you're getting paid a lot more per hour, but you're only working maybe 10 hours at that job,
Right. Pricing is so hard. Pricing is like one of the hardest things, I think, because usually I'll find a price and I'll be like, okay, this is the price. I feel comfortable with this. And then I do the work and then I feel like I didn't get paid enough because, there's like taxes and expenses and everything else that comes out of that money. So it's like if you think you're charging enough, like add on like 25% for like all the shit you forget about.
Yeah.
Crazy. Pricing could be like a whole topic in itself.
We should do a whole podcast on pricing because that's something Rick and I talk about all the time. Because I remember when we first started a business together, he didn't fully understand, like, I was trying to describe to him all of the things that go into pricing. And it's not just like the cost of your equipment, which is a huge investment to begin with. It's not just the cost of your time. There's no real hourly rate for any. It's kind of like on a per job basis. That's why we quote jobs per job.
Per project, yeah.
And then also like all of the countless hours that go into researching how to do these things specifically to the best of your abilities and in the least amount of time, and to be able to execute at that sort of level.
Yeah, and not only that, but like the 4 years we invested in college.
Yeah, I don't even consider that because that's like
we can't even factor that in.
Right, it's such a massive amount of time, but also a huge expense. Like that's why we're gonna do a whole podcast on college because it's something that it's really needs to be taken more heavily into consideration, especially in the creative fields. Because I feel like a lot of people nowadays are just told, yeah, go to college, and it's not the right answer for everyone.
I agree. Actually, now that we're talking about career versus entrepreneurship and college, we could just quickly touch on the fact that one of the benefits of being self-employed is that you determine your own requirements. So, we both went to school for 4 years and now we work for ourselves. And like, not that the degree was pointless, I'm not saying that, but like damn. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even have to put in my resume anywhere. Like,
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on resumes, and that's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's still something to be proud of, but it doesn't do as much. Like, our real resume is our website or our portfolios, and
Yeah.
that's kind of all people look at, you know.
And
that
we're
the
not
price.
even pitching to people. Like, now, instead of like putting in a job application, now we're like pitching to clients like, hey, trust us, hire us, we know what we're doing. Versus like when in school they were like, this is how you apply and get a job, which is important if you want a career. But we thought that was what we wanted, and then
Well, no, I think school is still a good option even if you are an entrepreneur. Like, I studied business in school quite a bit.
Oh, for sure. No, I
And
agree.
I really like the idea that some of the professors instilled in us, that it's like your ideas are worth money. It's not just your time. It's your ideas.
Creative liberty is like,
Yeah.
your creative vision is worth an infinite amount because no one else has your creative vision. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't understand. It's like, yeah, you might pay $5,000 for a piece of art and it's just like a woman that splashed a paintbrush on it. But like, if you're like, someone's willing to pay for that art, right? Maybe not me, but
Right, definitely.
like, it's her creative vision. And if she wants to charge whatever she wants to charge, that's up to her. And that's what I love about being self-employed, is that like, no one, I've had people tell me like at Hill and Valley, people will come to us and be like, you're quoting way too much, or like whatever, like get offended. Yeah. Like, this one time I got this email from this person and they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're trying to charge me that much. Like, I could have someone on Fiverr do it for a quarter of the price or whatever. And I'm like, then go on Fiverr and hire someone on Fiverr. Like,
yeah, and we're happy to let those ones go.
Yeah.
Those people will figure it out for themselves, you know, that it's like you're paying for not only the execution, but the ideas behind the execution as well. So
yeah, and a professional company. It wasn't even that big of a quote. I was shocked. But anyway,
yeah.
Moving on. It's also like talking about working really hard now for the reward later versus like working at your job every week and getting the reward every 2 weeks. You know, like when you work at a company, I guess you get a retirement pension or whatever.
Right. It comes out of your paycheck.
But it comes out of your paycheck. And it's like, when you're working at a job, you work really hard and then every 2 weeks you get that reward. But for us, it's like, yeah, we get paid, you know, inconsistently, but our reward is like the day that our business is making money and we're like sitting on a beach somewhere, you know, like that's in my mind.
Your goal.
That's my goal, is like back home they're like running everything and I'm like on a beach somewhere and I'm like, this is the reward. Like, and maybe it takes 10 years to get there, right? But that's worth it to me.
Yeah, you got to think about the long run.
Totally thinking about the long run.
Definitely not my end goal. I'm somebody who just
Adam just wants to work forever.
Right. I mean, I get to make videos, so like you were making fun of me because I've spent a lot of time like setting up the lights and
yeah, it took us a long time to set up today.
But that's what I enjoy doing, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse how much you love to work. It's a curse for me, not for him.
Yeah, it's not really work for me, so that's, I mean, it's like kind of fun. It's definitely some jobs I'm like, oh, this is kind of work and it's becoming less fun, but that's the glory of, like you said, owning your own business. It's tomorrow I'm not going to have to do that because it's done.
Yeah. And tomorrow you could decide you do or don't want to work. That's my favorite part. It's like, but anyway.
Yeah, I always choose work.
Adam always chooses work, and then like I'm still in bed at like 10 o'clock, like calling him like, hey, what are you doing?
What do you mean? It's Tuesday.
And I'm like in bed. But speaking of like the long run, I think one of the biggest things to think about when deciding if you want to start your own business or just continue on your career path in a company with an employer is thinking about what your life what you want your life to be like, but in regards to the other people in your life. So, for example, do you want kids? Do you want to get married? Do you want pets? Like, those are all things that you have to consider, because your employment is going to either, you know, your people in your life are going to depend on your employment or not depend on your employment, or, you know, their life is going to be affected by how you're employed. So for us, like, we're lucky because we work together and we chose to be self-employed together, but it also means we have to work harder because we're dependent on each other to work hard to support us, right? But some people, like I know people that just want to have kids and they want to find someone that's the breadwinner and that's what they want, and they don't want to start their own business, or they want to just have a part-time job. And that's fine. I just think that's something that needs to be evaluated, because being an entrepreneur is not easy, and especially with having inconsistent income at times, it's definitely something you have to consider in regards to the other people in your life, or the other people that you plan on having in your life. And one of the things I talk about all the time, because we want to get a dog, is the fact that since we're self-employed, we could be with that dog all day. And that's like the dream for me.
Yeah, there's plenty of space here for him to run around.
Yeah. And I always feel so bad when I see someone with a dog or with a pet, and then they work like 80 hours a week, and
If you work from home, then like a lot of people do nowadays.
yeah, but I'm saying, like, I know people that are just like career people, and they just like are always like running from one thing to the other, but then they have a pet that they never get to see. And I'm like, that's so sad for that dog. But maybe I'm just judgmental.
Yeah, definitely.
But I feel like you should really consider the effect of your employment on the people in your life. But what is the reason why you really wanted to start your own business? Like, what made you think, oh, I don't want to work for other people? Like, do you have a thing that flipped a switch?
Yeah, that's tough. I don't know. I definitely enjoy working for other people, because like growing up, I worked for a small business, and I really got in the mindset that like it was all about the team, it was about the business, and I was very fortunate enough to have a boss that like really rewarded everyone equally and made sure that everybody reaped the rewards from the business doing well. And that comes from, working on a commission basis or getting stuff at a heavy discount so that I can have fun. But
it was a small business.
It was a very small business. Yeah, probably like 20 employees. And
maybe,
I think that's the way I would like to go if I worked for anybody else. But I've never really worked for a large company, so I can't really speak to that.
Yeah, so you basically, maybe you saw that type, because your boss is amazing. He's just a great guy. And
as long as I had that like connection with the employer, I feel like I would be all right, because we're always on the same page. Now he hires us to make videos for him. So
yeah. But think about, now you started your own company, and that would be your goal, right? Like, that's the kind of company you want, right?
Yeah, totally.
To mimic it.
Yeah,
and I think he's a great mentor, and he's a great person, and just someone to really look up to. And I feel like because you worked at a small business, you saw how, he took care of the employees, and he cared about the employees, and he knew the employees, and you wanted to like kind of mimic that and like instill those values in your own business.
Yeah, he was definitely a huge role model as a business owner and just a human being in general. So I think that's something I've always been very grateful for, to have my first job, to be that. Like, it really set up my entire life.
Yeah.
So I know not everybody has the opportunity, but like me like being
me on the reverse end. Yeah. My very first job ever was an internship, and I was a graphic designer at Hershey Entertainment and Resorts. And it was a sick job, but it was definitely like a job. Like, I worked 40 hours a week, whatever, making minimum wage in Pennsylvania, which was like $7.25. It's still $7.25. Isn't that disgusting? But anyway, like, I remember being a junior in high school and getting this job and being like, I'm making $400 or whatever it was every 2 weeks. This is great. And then when I grew up, I realized that like my mom was making the same amount that I was. And like, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's insane.
Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. But I started working in a career position. So I always really valued that, and I always wanted to get jobs that were in my career path that I thought I was taking, which was graphic design and photography. And then I realized that those opportunities are not always available. So I worked as a barista in multiple places. I loved being a barista. I love coffee. But it's definitely, that was kind of where I started to see the shift in employers, and like that was when I really started to see that I didn't want to work for someone else forever. It's because like I worked at one coffee shop that was amazing, and I loved it, and it was really small business feels. And then I worked at another one, and I absolutely hated it. It was so strict. The customers were horrible. It was just, it was the opposite, and I quit that job very fast. And Then I started working at a makeup store. Am I allowed to like disclose that I used to work at Ulta?
You said Hershey Entertainment and Resort, so.
Oh, I guess so. Whatever. I used to work at Ulta. Left on good terms. Loved it. Loved my employers. But working for a big corporation felt really against what I wanted to do for my life. And
It's definitely very cookie cutter.
yeah, it was cookie cutter, and it wasn't it, you know, for me.
Yeah,
it is for some people.
Sucked a lot of the life out of you. I could tell when you were working there, you just did not enjoy it. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, not every job is going to be enjoyable, and not everybody's going to have the opportunity to choose to have an enjoyable job.
But if you work hard enough, you can love your job. Like,
yeah, I definitely have had days where like I have to change my mindset to like enjoy, you know, not now that I work for myself, but like
yeah,
when I worked for somebody else, it's like,
oh yeah, and customer service is brutal. Retail, brutal.
yeah,
And
feel
I
bad.
respect the workers so much. Yeah. I mean, I used to be one, and I know how crappy it can be. It can be amazing. It can be so much fun if you have a good team. I miss the girls that I used to work with so much, but like, I think just after so much retail, I mean, multiple jobs I've had in retail. I worked at a photo store at RIT. I worked as barista. I was a bank teller at once. That was good money. Mm-hmm. If you want a career, but you don't really know what you want to do, become a bank teller. They make great money. It's an easy job. I'm horrible at math. You don't need to know math. It's great.
Yeah, you got machines for that.
They got machines.
Yeah, but you can always tell when somebody's worked in retail. Like if a customer comes in, like you can tell if they've worked in retail just by like if something small goes wrong. How they treat you, like you can really tell if somebody's been in that position before.
I do really think that even if you're really young, like let's say someone's listening and they're like 16, 17, 18, and they're like, I want to start my own business. I still suggest you get a job somewhere just so you know how like businesses run and like how like let's say you want to start a clothing line, go work at a clothing store and see how customers are and how you should interact with customers and management, and it helps you become a better person, and it really helps your business thrive more. I think back to my previous work experience all the time in what we do now.
Yeah, I mean, the best way to learn is from other businesses. If they're doing something right, like if they're doing well, they're doing something right, you know? Yeah.
I agree. Well, I think that I want to end this episode with just, you know, it comes down to asking yourself the question, like, what are you the happiest doing? Are you happy just making videos all day and you don't care about how much money you make because, you know, you have a supportive spouse or something like that, like, and you just want to go to work and come home? Then stay in a career. There's no reason to start a business, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're happiest, like, having flexibility or doing something different every day, or you just are really passionate about coffee and you want to open a coffee shop, like, just do it. Like, find out what you need to do and then do it. I think anyone could start a business.
Yeah, if you have passion and the passion comes first, the money will follow, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people go into business worrying too much about money. I mean, money is definitely an important thing to have a business. Like, you have to have cash flow. But really, the passion is what drives business.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people are discouraged to start businesses because they don't have, like, mommy and daddy startup money, which neither of us had. We didn't have any mommy, daddy startup money, unfortunately.
So saved our pennies.
Yeah, we really saved the money to do it. And I do think that some businesses, you really don't need to make large investments to start. Technically, with my photography business, I invested in a camera, and I invested in memory cards and software. And that was probably like $2,000 altogether just to get started.
Well, your first camera.
My first camera.
I was going to say your camera was way more. But yeah, I can agree with that because
and photography is expensive.
Even something like video production that is a huge expense. I was able to start very slowly, like trickled into it and slowly acquired things by doing smaller jobs, then larger jobs. And as I had the proper equipment or gained the proper equipment.
People are shooting on their iPhones now.
Yeah. Well, that's not what I'm getting at, but like, you know.
No, I know what you're saying is like you can build, you don't need everything to start.
Right. And you can rent for a while.
You can rent. But I'm just saying is like a lot of people are discouraged because they think they need the biggest and the best thing. And it's like, just start and like, just do it if it's something you're happy about.
Right. Just do it and make something that you have to show for.
Yeah. and work your way up and work hard and be happy. Don't do something if you're not happy doing it.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
You have to be
what makes you
happy and passionate about it. But I think I'm going to leave that at that. Thank you for listening. We will catch you on the next episode. If you can leave a review on Apple for my podcast. You can now listen on Spotify, Apple, and Google. And you can watch on YouTube. I'll be putting in like little photos in between the clips so that you might get a little glimpse of something that you can't listen to. Okay. Well, that's all for this week. Thanks, guys, for watching.